She never planned to be a mother. The ache began when she was barely 30, the loneliness so thick that even the cheerful chatter of colleagues felt like distant thunder. Weekends were the hardest. While friends visited family or hosted backyard barbecues, she sat in her quiet apartment, the glow of the television her only companion. One Sunday afternoon, scrolling through news stories, a photo caught her eye. A 12-year-old boy, dark-skinned, gaze solemn, standing outside the orphanage gates. His story was painful. A mother lost to illness, a father unknown. Something in his eyes stirred her heart. She closed her eyes and felt an unfamiliar warmth, a flicker of purpose she hadn't known she was missing. The paperwork was exhausting. Home visits, background checks, parenting classes. She answered questions she didn't always understand. "How will you handle discipline?" She'd reply, "With love." "What about his education?" She'd say, "I'll support him, every step." Every official nodded, but she knew her answers were shadows of hope, not guarantees of success. When at last the court decreed him hers, she rushed to the orphanage, heart pounding, hands trembling. There he stood in a faded t-shirt, shy but curious. She knelt, held out her hand, and he placed his small one in hers as though trusting her with his entire world. Their first months were a dance of discovery. He called her Mama on the second day. She taught him to ride a bike in the park, his laughter bright and free. She introduced him to peanut butter sandwiches and bedtime stories. He showed her how to play basketball, teaching her to dribble and shoot. His favorite was a worn-out Harlem Globetrotters DVD they played every night. They'd mimic the tricks, falling over themselves with giggles. She painted his room a gentle sky blue, hung a poster of Muhammad Ali above his bed, whispered stories of courage as he drifted off. As years passed, he thrived. School came easily. He loved reading science fiction and writing short stories. He declared one day he'd become an astronaut. She tucked away his essay, proud tears shining. They celebrated every birthday with chocolate cake and friends piling into their home. On summer evenings, they'd sit on the porch swing, sipping lemonade, talking about dreams and fears. He asked her once why she chose him. She shrugged, voice soft. "Because I needed you and you needed me." He smiled, pressing his head against her shoulder. High school brought new experiences. He joined the debate team, honing his gift for argument. She cheered at every meet. He tutored younger kids in math, determined to give back. She watched during parent-teacher conferences, swelling with pride at reports of his kindness and leadership. Friendships flourished. His circle was diverse and loyal. He navigated teenage challenges with grace, confiding in her about crushes and peer pressure. They endured the heartbreak of a lost debate competition, the triumph of graduation, his lanky frame towering over hers as they posed for photos, mortarboard slightly askew. College acceptance letters arrived. He chose a state university with a strong physics program. They cried together as he hugged her goodbye in the airport terminal. She spent evenings rereading his childhood letters, the ones he penned every week. She framed his first drawing of a rocket ship and hung it above her desk. They Skyped nightly. He described lectures, late-night study sessions, dorm life. She sent care packages, instant coffee, socks, his favorite snacks, a handwritten note tucked inside each box. After college, his path was a blur of internships and research labs. She visited on weekends, touring campuses, meeting professors who praised his intellect and dedication. He rented a small apartment in the city where he worked as a junior engineer on a private space exploration project. He introduced her to colleagues, his face lighting up as he sketched spacecraft designs on napkins. She watched, fascinated by his passion, her heart swelling with maternal pride. 20 years drifted by like a dream. Her hair turned silver. His became a dark wave. Lines etched her face, memories carved into every crease. Their bond deepened, their stories intertwined. Yet there was a distance she couldn't name, a restlessness in his eyes, a hesitance when she asked about his private life. He defended it with smiles, deflections. She dismissed it as typical adult privacy until the day a letter arrived. stamped, with an unfamiliar government seal. She opened it with trembling fingers. It was addressed to him, not her. Inside, a single sheet bore official insignia, Department of Homeland Security. He read it quickly, brow furrowing. She watched as his face paled. He folded the letter and slipped it into his jacket pocket. "It's nothing," he said, voice tight. "Just paperwork." But his eyes haunted her. That evening, dinner was quiet. She served his favorite, baked ziti with garlic bread, but he pushed the plate away. Silence stretched, thick and awkward. She pressed gently. "What is it?" He sighed, folding his hands. "I need to tell you something important." He swallowed. "I wasn't born here." She stared, heart pounding. "But you've had a birth certificate since you were adopted." He nodded. "That document, it wasn't mine to start with." He explained that shortly after birth, he was taken by Child Protective Services and placed in foster care. Unbeknownst to the orphanage, his biological parents had been detained by immigration authorities. In the chaos, paperwork was lost. Someone, a social worker, created a false certificate to document a U.S. birthplace so he could stay here permanently. It was common in those days, she said, meant to protect children. He shrugged, tears welling. "I only found out when I applied for a security clearance for my new project." She felt her world tilt. All those years, questions loomed. Why did the orphanage never verify? Who had the power to rewrite a child's origin? He reached across the table, took her hand. "I didn't want to hurt you, I didn't know how." She squeezed back, voice trembling. "You should have told me." The next days were a whirl. He contacted the agency to clarify his citizenship status. He faced bureaucratic hurdles, proof of identity, paternity tests, DNA swabs. She accompanied him to appointments, sat through interviews. Each form he signed felt like an indictment of their family story. Yet, as they worked side by side, her pride for him grew. He confronted the truth with dignity. Then came the call. He was summoned for a background check interview at a federal office downtown. The date was set. She knew how important this meeting was. Failure could jeopardize his career and his future. On the morning of the appointment, she drove him through city streets, their hands clasped on the steering wheel. Silence. Solidarity. At the building's entrance, they paused. He turned to her, eyes firm. "I'll be okay." She nodded, fought tears. "I love you." He hugged her tight, then walked in. Hours passed. She waited in the lobby, heart racing. Finally, he emerged, face bright. He'd been cleared, his paperwork accepted, his status confirmed. He smiled, relief pouring from him. They embraced in the parking garage, tears mingling. That night, back at home, they sat on the couch under a soft blanket. He spoke of the injustice of his past, of children lost in bureaucratic limbo. He spoke of gratitude, how her love had given him stability, identity, purpose. She spoke of pride, how he'd grown into a man of integrity. He took a deep breath. "There's more," he whispered. "I'm not just a citizen now. I've been offered a position on a secretive research team, a mission that could change space travel forever. But they need to know my history is rock solid." She reached for his face, caressed his cheek. "Your history is ours. It always will be." He looked at her, eyes shining. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." They sat in companionable silence, the weight of years lifting. Dawn crept through the window. The world held infinite possibilities. She realized that her decision to adopt him had been more than charity. It had been destiny. In loving him, she'd found her own purpose. In his truth, they'd forged an unbreakable bond. Years later, long after the mission launched successfully into orbit, journalists would ask him about his remarkable journey. He'd speak of science, teamwork, discovery, but always he'd end with gratitude for the woman who chose him. He'd say she taught him that identity isn't just a document. It's love, sacrifice, the courage to embrace truth. And in that truth, they both found freedom.